This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. This is, of course, the WWE Podcast. We're going to be talking about Monday Night Raw that took place last night on July 8th in Ottawa. So WWE making their rounds in Canada and then coming back to the United States, and the PLE next, obviously, is SummerSlam that will be taking place from Cleveland. So back to the boring United States crowds we go, and we've got a couple weeks to go. We've got, well, really, 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks until the event. So the card is starting to shape out a little bit. We have Damian Priest and Gunther that seems to still be on. Gunther wasn't even on Raw, by the way, other than in a video package. So that'll have to heat up in short order as we get closer to the event, and he'll actually be on Raw next week. But boy, if you're in... where is Raw next week? I'd have to Google it. But wherever Raw is next week, how are you not, super annoyed by Punk saying, I won't be here next week. I mean, he's on Raw this week. He's announcing he's not going to be there next week. He'll probably be there the following week. So whoever you are next week, if you want to see CM Punk, you got shortchanged based on his schedule and the storyline that is corresponding with it. So I was just sitting there thinking that, because obviously I had to deal with Randy Orton and Punk returning at Survivor Series, and then 2 weeks later we had SmackDown at in Albany, and neither of them were there. None of them. And Raw came to Albany. I'm sorry. Randy got drafted to SmackDown. Punk just took a week or two off, and it's like, you feel like you got massively shortchanged. So I get it. It happens, and there's just not much you can do about it. You just play roulette, and you hope that you land on you land on black if you bet on black, right? So it's just the way it goes. And so anyway, we've got a lot to talk about with the Monday Night Raw review. I know many of you have joined us on Patreon, and thank you so much. And you can get on Patreon and get an ad-free experience. And you got it at patreon.com/WWE podcast. And you can also get access to the Discord server, which, by the way, if you guys have, if you're a member of Patreon and you don't have the Discord link, just shoot me an email. I will give you that link. Well, let's just start off with the biggest story coming out of Raw. And no, that's not Punk. It's not Drew. It's none other than the return of Mommy, who came back in a place that I figured it would happen. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but it was the right move. And creatively, I think it was the most conspicuous situation you could put Dom in, other than fully making out with Liv, which I'm kind of sad he didn't. I mean, if you're going to go there, just have him, break, finally make out with Liv, and then here comes Mommy. However, it seemed like Dom was giving in after he beat his dad for the first time in a tag team match. Zelina Vega teamed with Rey. She was on the losing side of things. We got Dom getting the victory, and then here comes Mommy in a very rushed ending to Raw. No doubt about it. They did not time that well. There was about 50 seconds left on the broadcast when Rhea Ripley stood on the entranceway, and you're like, how are they going to do this right here? I mean, boy, they missed things by at least a good minute or two to really draw that moment out. Liv took off, ran through the crowd. She sold it well. The shocked look on her face, that she saw Rhea. It's like she saw a ghost, and so she did her part well. And Dom was trying to explain and talk to Mommy about what she had just seen and had been seeing for weeks, and she just ignored him and then left. I mean, she essentially did a U-turn. It felt extremely rushed, but that's not the fault of Rhea Ripley. I mean, they just didn't time the match out well with what they hadn't planned with Rhea's return. It was climactic, but didn't give us enough time to absorb what was going on. I mean, everyone that watched it saw it and knows what I'm talking about here. So they kind of botched that return in a weird way because of the timing issue with the USA Network. And so, I don't know if that'll be an issue with Raw moving to Netflix. I don't think it will be. There'll be no such thing. I don't think as overruns that they have to worry about because it's not a cable network. And anyway, I thought the return was fun. Big pop, not epic, not as big as I had thought it would be. For that return of Mommy, and it had been teased kind of throughout the night as Priest was talking about consequences for Dom and had been on the phone with someone, which we now know is seemingly Rhea Ripley. And so it was cool to see her again, very rushed, which kind of soured the moment a bit. But here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to watch Dom just be a rag doll for Rhea Ripley once she does really officially turn on him. I think she's going to be just beating on Dom. You know that's coming. You know that the whole dynamic of men not being able to retaliate against women is going to be at the forefront of this whole rivalry with Dom and Rhea eventually completely turning on him and hitting Riptide on him. I mean, that's going to be the match. I wouldn't even be surprised if we end up getting an intergender match, and not a mixed tag. I'm talking man versus woman here with Rhea Ripley beating Dominic Mysterio. I'm telling you, I think that's where they might be going. Yes, Rhea's capturing at some point, recapturing her championship from Liv. She's got a lot of beef with Liv now, and she'll be the main target. But Dom is kind of the side story here, and I'm telling you, you heard it here first. I think they could do an intergender match. Rhea Ripley would be all for it. I would not be. That sounds crazy, but I've never been, I don't want to be a proponent of intergender matches because they're unrealistic as hell. And you may say, the whole genre of pro wrestling is unrealistic. It's like, well, first of all, why are you watching if you think that? We all know what pro wrestling is, but there's only certain limits you can take it to before I even roll my eyes. Any wrestling fan would roll their eyes. And if you have the men start competing against the women, yeah, sorry, I don't prescribe to that because I'm not going to be a part of a world where we're supposed to believe that these men are just going to cower at the altar of any woman. They can't retaliate. And now we're going to have a parrot. This is only in my mind. Obviously, nothing's official, but a match between Rhea and Dom, I think, could happen and is, dare I say, likely to happen. I don't want it though. As much as this has been a really good story, I just don't want it for those aforementioned reasons. Just not a proponent of intergender, but obviously, Liv is going to be in escape mode. She's going to be dodging Rhea Ripley. She's going to be trying to make excuses. And Rhea Ripley is going to be chasing her. And I don't think she's going to capture the championship right away. In fact, I could see at SummerSlam, Liv versus Rhea seems like a lock for the women's championship, right? For the women's world title. But I think what's going to happen is, as Rhea looks like she's closing in, hits Riptide, Dom is going to turn officially on Rhea, screw Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam, which allows Liv to retain. And then that's when you start to really build towards, and I hope not, Rhea Ripley versus Dominic. And I think that's more likely. Now, it also takes, I'm not trying to be the pour cold water on this return, but when we all see social media, which has been, I think, a net negative for wrestling in general, you see Rhea Ripley, who just got married to Buddy Murphy, right? And it's like, I know we can keep the two worlds separate, but it's a little bit weird when we just saw her marry someone else in real life, and now we're all being asked to completely forget that and believe that she's trying to hold on to Dominic Mysterio. Look, it's wrestling. totally understand, and this storyline should be just fine. But it is just bad timing that she got married in real life, but at the same time, her storyline is now peaking at a point with another man on the show that we all know obviously is manufactured. So just kind of weird timing here with art imitating life and life imitating art, as they say. We'll see. I think that's probably how it goes as an early prediction with Liv and Rhea and the women's championship. I don't think Rhea recaptures it for probably a little while. Just kind of like we all thought Damian Priest was going to lose the title about 4 months ago. He hasn't. I mean, he continues to find ways to win, and his argument of, well, what champion has there been that hasn't been stewed in controversy? Well, that was a decent rebuttal, except for the fact that not every one of your outcomes, actually none of your outcomes of retaining the championship or winning it for that matter, were on the up and up. Right? Like all of them were stewed in controversy, where previous champions were not. You may have an occasional one here and there, but so far, all of Damian's championship retentions and initial victory, have been kind of tainted. But it's a decent argument. And you know what? As much as that sounds like a complaint to you, it's really something that I've been pleasantly surprised with, is Damian Priest's championship run. I was convinced it was ending at Money in the Bank. I was wrong. Damian Priest also lifted the gentleman's agreement on his own. So I don't know how I feel about that, though. I mean, I'm okay with it, I guess, but it also kind of tells you that Seth is now going to be injected likely into this matchup with Gunther and Priest at SummerSlam. Because what does Seth do at SummerSlam otherwise? They wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and this is a roundabout way to do it. They didn't want Damian to leave the Judgment Day yet. There's a story they want to tell there with the tension continuing to build, but they also wanted Damian to retain so they could build towards Seth and Punk, and now they want to go back. It's like, so. Yeah. Hey, again, sounds like a complaint, more of just kind of breaking down what they're doing here, more than, what I usually do and complain about certain things. So that looks to be the case, because otherwise, what the hell does Rollins do at SummerSlam? If you're not going to shove him into the world title match, what are you doing? So I think Gunther versus Priest versus Rollins is a much more name brand heavy title match than obviously Priest versus Gunther, which has nobody really that excited, because that's a heel versus a heel match. I mean, sure, you could argue Priest isn't truly a heel, and there is some validity to that, but at the same time, that's not a star power driven match, and it doesn't get anyone excited. Now, I think that main event would be fine if it was any other PLE during the year other than WrestleMania or any of the big four. But again, this is one of the big four, and you don't want Priest versus Gunther. Sorry, it just doesn't work if you're trying to make the biggest match possible. And they're also trying to tell us that SummerSlam is the WrestleMania of the summer. They're splitting it into 2 nights in 2 years. All the things, right? So Rollins has to be injected into this. Because if he doesn't, you can't go Punk and Rollins. That doesn't work yet. They're laying the foundation for that, but I don't think we're there yet to have to go to Punk versus Rollins, at least for the moment. I think that's coming by WrestleMania. So, all right. Well, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. A little bit of an abbreviated version here. It's actually nearly midnight where I fell asleep. All right. I was actually watching, what the hell was I? I was watching The Office, which never gets old. Never. I know that it's so cliche to say The Office is one of the best series of all time, but by sheer numbers it is. I mean, you can look at, or just Google, how many people have watched The Office. And I think it's the most streamed show on television, period. More than Friends, more than Big Bang Theory, more than any of them. The ones that ever, even more than Game of Thrones, which is just wild. So anyway, I fell asleep to The Office. I woke up and I'm like, oh, like I almost didn't get here tonight, guys. I almost said for the first time in a while, F it, I need to go to sleep. So I'm splitting the difference and I'm doing a bit of an abbreviated version here, and we'll see how it goes as I keep my eyes open. But all right, let's continue, and we'll talk about, what do we want to talk about? No, I didn't mean to be Cody Rhodes. Nobody say that. Okay. Let's talk about Bronson Reed. I'm sorry, not Bronson Reed and Pete Dunne. We'll get there. Jey Uso and Chad Gable. Match was 7 minutes. Jey beats Chad. And it was after the match, the Wyatt Sicks lights winded down. Jey Uso was hilarious. He heard the beginnings of the music, and he just put his arms out. And he's like, yeet, and then he just bounced. He's like, I'm out of here, bruh. And Chad Gable was left to his own devices. And once again, we have one of the Wyatt Sicks members, Alexa Bliss. Oh my gosh. Although Alexa Bliss is rumored on her way back. Nikki Cross, whatever she's going to be called at this point, continues to haunt Chad and brought Michael Cole yet another VHS tape that they played. So he didn't get attacked. I mean, Chad Gable hasn't been attacked since he was bludgeoned in the production area 3 weeks ago. And there's also the idea that there's a reason that he's being targeted by the Wyatt Sicks, which we should explore. Now, there's been theories, and I think some of them have been propagated by some of our listeners as well. He turned his back on his family, and the Wyatts are all about family, and they value family. And when you violate one of their values, they come after you. So that could be it. He did turn his back at his family with Otis and Maxine and Akira Tozawa. Which, as a quick side note, what the hell happened to that story? Where are the Creed brothers? Are we not there yet? And also, was that the big payoff? Was just a shove by Otis a few weeks ago? I'm being serious. Now, that is something I take issue with. How many weeks were we getting behind getting behind Otis and getting behind Maxine? Somebody stand up to him. Somebody beat the hell out of this jerk. And all we get after weeks and weeks of abuse and public spankings and dehumanizing rhetoric, we get a shove by Otis, and that's it? Now, sure, they could come back to it, and they might, but you didn't hit it when it was as hot as it could. At least Otis should have snapped. If you didn't want to get to the match, you don't have to at that time. You could put it off, but that moment, that's it. That's it. You built all of that for a shove. Again, they can come back to it, yes, but it won't be as hot as it was when Otis was, a fan favorite and the fans were chanting for Otis, and maybe some were analyzing this as a potential breakout moment for Otis to go into a singles career. And Otis has been MIA, and the Creed brothers have been kind of creeping backstage a little bit. You saw some teasing of Chad Gable and the Creed brothers aligning, and that I still think is a great fit. But then he got sidetracked into the Wyatts for some unknown reason, or at least some unconfirmed reason at this point. So I'm not sure what's happening here. Chad Gable's, I feel like, being pulled in three directions. But anyway, the crowd continues to chant Holy S, and I can't wait for the censors to go away for that part of the viewing experience of wrestling. And by the way, the Holy S chants are being used a little bit too liberally. I think it's sometimes undeserving. This is awesome is now at a point where I could go in, I think, and take a couple of bumps and do like 5 minutes of chain wrestling, and This Is Awesome is what's now being chanted. I think the bar has been kind of lowered for This Is Awesome. Remember when we first heard This Is Awesome, and it was used really only when matches were felt to be that awesome, and now it's just kind of one of the things that fans chant when they even have a mildly entertaining match. I guess the specialness, for lack of a better word, the I don't know the word, guys. I'm just, it's midnight here. I think the deservingness of that phrase and chant have been diminished, and that's just my take, but not really the point here, because I think that Chad Gable has been at the top of his game here. Jey Uso is at the top of his game. He's kind of, I think he's flatlined a little bit, but not in a way that his career's dead. I'm saying flatlined and kind of just, waiting for the next big story is where he's at. All right. So Bronson Reed defeated Pete Dunne in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. This finish was Reed went to the ropes. Dunne hit it with a step up in Zaguri. Bronson dumped Reed off the top rope and then hit him with a tsunami before getting the victory. And then Reed sold his left arm after and set up for his finish again. But Sheamus comes out and hit Reed with a brogue kick that cleared him from the ring. And Sheamus tried to celebrate with Pete Dunne, who shoved him away and left the ring. And Cole said the story that Sheamus walked out of the Brawling Brutes and Dunne hasn't forgotten, i.e. Butch. Right. So that's a nice little, I think, respectable way to tell that story. And we're not supposed to believe that Sheamus and Pete Dunne, who used to be known as Butch, it's not like we're pretending they've never interacted, because he has a new name now. Under the Vince McMahon regime, if he changed names, well, hell, let's just give him a whole new identity and forget who he was before then. So I think it's a nice way to not insult our intelligence. All right. Let's see. We ended up getting some backstage stuff. A nice promo from Priest, who continues to, again, just impress. Sure, he botched some things at the Money in the Bank event. Don't really care. I don't care. Just like, and you may be saying, well, you don't care for the men, but you complain about the women. That's no. Okay. So botches are not all created equal. Okay. Botches are not all created equal. It depends on the moment, how long you've been in the business, how high up in the card you've been, the pressure that's on you, many different factors. Priest, I give a pass to. He's generally a pretty smooth in-ring wrestler. He has been an overachiever when it comes to this world title run. He continues to hold the title, and many of us, including myself, have been wrong about how long he's going to hold the title. They've even called him a transitional champion on air. And so, sure, he botched some things at Money in the Bank. To that, I say, who cares? Will I say who cares if he continues to botch event after event? No. But botches happen. We're human. Really no harm, no foul, because they got done when they needed to get done. And even Drew McIntyre had a pretty bad botch with his Claymore kick on Priest that looked like a half-assed drop kick. It was bad. And so he even had a bad night. The women had botched spots, many of them that looked dangerous in their ladder match at Money in the Bank. But to all of them, here's what I say. For the men and the women, who cares? Who cares? It all worked out in the end, and all of those botched spots in the matches at Money in the Bank all ended up being really fun matches. So I just wanted to say that, off the top, and that Priest has continued to impress. So, all right. So we then had Sami Zayn come out, and here we go with the screaming promos. He had non-wrestling attire on. He had some plaid on, which suited him very well. But here's what I really like from Sami. He is trying to change his identity that he's had. Rather, tweak it, evolve it, is probably a better word, from what the fans have viewed him as for years, including myself, who has been complaining about it, is he still somehow feels like an underdog. In every match he has, maybe it's the way he wrestles, maybe it's the fact that he doesn't have a ton of muscle mass, I don't know what it is, or it's just kind of a Pavlovian response to his music and his entrance and the way he just looks and feels, is that he always just by default is the underdog. And I felt that way forever. In every match he's had, especially when it comes to title matches, that he always is the underdog in the match. He's the, he's the long shot. But he's told the fans, hey, I'm no longer the underdog. I'm a champion. He said that he's earned a certain level of respect that Braun Breaker didn't bring to their match at that Money in the Bank. And Zayn said it's one thing to knock him down, it's another to keep him down. I like this. It's telling the fans, hey, stop viewing me as an underdog. And I think that's a great way to push his character forward and to try to think of him as maybe a favorite in some matches. Like outside of him being in a tag team with KO when they were heavy favorites to beat the Usos at last year's WrestleMania 39, his singles run has always been he fights from behind. You can't keep him down. He's the scrappy, never say die wrestler. So he does wrestle like that, and the announcers do position him like that. So it's a pretty well ingrained view that the fans have of Sammy. And it's going to take more than just a proclamation to the fans that, hey, I'm not this anymore, I'm this. Okay, well, show me. It's going to take a little follow-up for us to start to think of him differently. But I think it's an important evolution for him. I think it's a very important, simple, but important progress in his character. So I really appreciated that. Now, Braun Breaker came out to his new theme. I was duly informed that he has a new theme because I missed it. But this one is equally as crappy. What I mean by that is it's so generic. It's like the background music of a 2K game. Sometimes you don't really pay attention to it, right? It's just there to to make noise. So I'm not impressed with his new music. I know that the WWE clearly heard the fans, but they replaced it with one pile of crap with another, somebody else's pile of crap. It sounded like, and I didn't listen to it on Spotify or anything, but just through the regular crowd noise, it just sounds like a bunch of screaming. It sounds like a really bad Disturbed track. I was not impressed by it. Now, it doesn't need to be a sing-along, doesn't need to be a ballad, it doesn't need to be a top 10 hit with Casey Kasem. All right, there's a name for some of you that have no idea who that is. But if you do that, okay, now I'm twisting my childhood into wrestling analysis here. But those of you who know who Casey Kasem is on the top 40, remember, look, if you're a 90s kid, early 2000s kid, even probably a late 80s kid, really 80s kid, 90s kid, you know who Casey Kasem is. An iconic voice in radio that for me was the most famous. And I have the best memories of him on I think it was Sunday mornings. He would do the national top 40 countdown for the top like pop hits or whatever. And at that time it was always like Backstreet Boys. It was kind of like a national radio version of TRL with Carson Daly. Now again, I know some of you have no clue because you're younger. Have any idea who the hell the names I'm talking about? You know, what's a Turl? Like, what do you mean TRL? Anyway, so some of you, I'm guessing, based on I look at the demographics of our audience, will probably know what I'm talking about. But I'm sure some of you are like, what is he even? What? So, or maybe if you're not in the United States, these may be exclusive to the U.S. So I'll get back on track here and stop boring you with my side stories of childhood. Where the hell was I going? I don't even know. But anyway, Breaker ended up saying that, didn't say anything at first. And he wanted to come out and give Zayn in the eye while noting that he was the only man in the locker room to have beaten him. And then he essentially just speared Zayn and attacked him. Referees come out as they do all the time when Breakker attacks someone. And he fought through the referees and producers. And Adam Pearce was in there screaming. Adam Pearce I feel like Adam Pearce, like 1 out of every 2 times he's on camera, he's stressed out or screaming. I mean, like, how many times do we see Adam Pearce screaming on Raw? I mean, can we do an over-under on that? He's always in the middle of every breakup. Is that really the general manager's job, by the way? Yeah, when you think about it, if this was legit, like, why is the general manager involved in doing what security is hired to do and what referees are hired to do? It's just funny, but I don't mind it. I find the visuals funny. And Adam Pearce has done a very nice job as GM. And he has progressed leaps and bounds from when he was first on camera. So, Breakker and Dragunov ended up having a match later in the show. And let's see here. So, where is that matchup? It ended with the Dragunov beating Breakker by DQ, but that's because Dragunov charged Breakker, who tossed an office chair at him for a DQ finish. Sammy didn't cause the DQ. He came out after the DQ had already occurred because of the office chair. So, which you don't see that often used, by the way. Sami Zayn came out and attacked Breakker, but Breakker fought off Sammy, put him into the ringside post. Dragunov fought Breakker and tossed him onto the broadcast table, and then Breakker stood on the table and yelled, and the announcers put him over as dangerous and unpredictable. They had to have a night here to rebuild Breakker, who some people felt was damaged by the loss to Sammy, because Breakker was looked at as the heavy favorite. Breakker's an up-and-coming guy. He's clearly way faster, not way faster, but he's very quick. And here's a fun fact. In case you guys didn't know, Braun Breakker, I caught this, I had to do some digging. This took many, many weeks to obtain. I had to get clearance to find this information from WWE officials or for them to give it to me. But apparently, don't go telling people this, but Braun Breakker can run the ropes at 23 miles an hour. Don't tell anyone I said that. Okay, it's exclusive facts here on the WWE podcast. It's breaking news. You'll only find it here. All right. You won't hear anyone else say it on programming. It is top secret stuff. So it's a secret between you and I. Okay. Just you and me. But Breakker is very fast. And he is. And he's powerful. And he's young. He's got youth. That's a big deal. And you're thinking, okay, he's going to take the belt. And he didn't. And Sammy was viewed as the underdog. And now Sammy's trying to redefine himself. Braun Breakker is still on the warpath. They needed a night to rebuild him and get him back on track. I think they did that. I'm not worried about Breakker at all. I'm not. Other than his awful music that is just continues to be awful. Okay. Let's see. I know there's lots of little stuff, guys. The Karrion Kross backstage promo was nice. It's nice to see, by the way, Karrion Kross and the Final Testament get something to sink their teeth into that's consistent. And their continued attack on the New Day is just a blast to watch. Mainly because you guys know how I feel about the New Day. And Kofi Kingston was hospitalized and there's some weird injury. It wasn't a torn anything. It was like I don't know. Something, I can't remember. There was some kind of injury that Kingston sustained. And it's just all music to my ears that we don't have to see the New Day. Okay, Damage Control took on Lyra Valkyria, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter. And let's see, we got this match ending in just under 10 minutes with Damage Control winning. And Io Sky hitting Carter with the over the moonsault was nice because, look, Io Sky, as I've said since WrestleMania, has done essentially nothing. And I was hoping that would be a launching point for her. It has not been, even though she lost to Bayley. But in her defense, they've done nothing with Bayley either. However, Damage Control still continues to float out there in the ether and exist. But, all right. We then have, let's see here. Again, lots of backstage stuff that I just don't have time to go through. We got, again, the main event, as I said, with Dom and Zelina Vega losing to Liv and... I'm sorry, Rey and Zelina lose to Dom and Liv. We all know what happened there with Rhea Ripley, which is the biggest news item coming out of the show for sure. And, Pat McAfee's back. That's a thing that happened on Raw. If you care about such things, Pat McAfee was back. Let's see. I think, again, guys, I know I did not cover everything here. A bit of an abbreviated version. But I got all the matches in. Let's see. Oh, no, I didn't got all the matches in. Wasn't there a tag team match here? I think there was here. There was a tag team match with, oh, no. Yeah, it was. It was, the matchup with Braun Strowman, R-Truth and The Miz versus Finn Balor, JD, and Carlito. That's the one I didn't get to. So this one was 8 minutes, and Finn, JD, and Carlito ended up beating Braun, R-Truth, and The Miz. And the finish was that Truth begged to be tagged in. Strowman obliged and then went to ringside and did a double freight train. It's one of the most despised moves for me in all of wrestling. But he did that move on Balor and Carlito. McDonough was hiding in the Timekeeper's area, and Strowman spotted him and chased him away from ringside, which was kind of funny. Truth played to the crowd and was hit by a shotgun drop kick from Balor, and then hit him with the coup de grace and got the victory. So, the losing ways continue for R-Truth. Their moment in the sun as tag team champions, as Awesome Truth, has come and gone, and that's okay. We had our moment, and I think they're really positioning Finn here for a potential double down on the heel run, with Priest about to be ousted from the Judgment Day. I think Rhea Ripley's about to be ousted from the Judgment Day, with her continued fracturing with Dom. I think that that's probably where they're going here with the Judgment Day, and then it'll just be Dom and Finn and JD McDonough on their end. But yeah, so one last thing that I want to mention again, guys. Oh, I didn't talk about this on Raw and that on Raw. If you want my questions specifically on Raw that I didn't cover, hey, what do you think about this or that? You can send it to my mailbag. Okay, mailbag at www.podcast.com if you want to specifically ask me something about Raw or talk about something I didn't cover and get your opinion and get that on the show. But here's what I want to talk about very quickly, and we'll wrap it up. There has been talk about the women's division gaining a mid-card belt on both shows. So there'll be a IC equivalent and a US title equivalent on Raw and SmackDown. Right now, I think that's a terrible idea. And before those of you out there who are thinking, oh, chauvinist, patriarchy, the men have it, why can't the women? Before all of that sector of the audience comes at me, which I could care less, because here's what I'm about to throw at you, some facts. And boy, do people hate facts today. The WWE needs to show me first and foremost that they can manage the titles that they already have and manage them effectively and maximize what they have already. What do I mean by that? I mean, first and foremost, the women's tag team titles. All right. I know they're not a singles title. They're a tag team title, But that has been a complete and utter mess since it has debuted a number of years ago. It has been a mess. It has been off again, on again, off again, off again, off again, off again, then back on again briefly, and then it's off again. They have been cursed. All right, there's something actually cursed about them. They make teams disappear. There really doesn't seem to be, or at least at the time, seemed to be a actual women's tag team division. Now that's starting to change a little bit, and I appreciate that. But it's still not at a point where you're like, oh wow, this tag team division's great. Also, even the women's world championships, specifically the one around Bayley's waist. I mean, what have they done with her? What did they do with Io Sky before her? They essentially ignored Io Sky as champion. And then Bayley wins, and you're thinking, okay, here we go, off to the races. It's going to be a lot of attention on Bayley. It's going to be fun. And they've essentially done nothing with Bayley since early April. All right. And now you want to introduce more belts? How does that help anyone? Just to say someone else can be a champion? That's not how this should work. More championships also, by the way, devalue all other championships. You may be saying, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything? Here's a little simple economic principle. When there's more of something, is it greater than or less than the value that it was before you introduced those additional items? Right? In other words, the more you add of something, does it become worth more? Or does it become worth less? I don't care if you're talking about money, you're talking about availability of products or services. This is the same concept. You introduce more championships into the women's division right now, and you will have every other championship mean less. You cannot avoid it. I don't care how good the storyline is, storyline telling is. None of that matters. You cannot overcome this principle. It's just going to happen. And lastly, this will ensure, if you do this, that every single women's rivalry is based on a championship. Because they already don't give the women enough time, at least if you're looking for equality of time, that doesn't exist right now. I'm not advocating for that right now, though, either, because there's a lot of great men's stuff going on. It will, I think, always be dominated by men in their respective sports. The women have done an awesome job. They main evented WrestleMania, for God's sakes, a spot that no one ever believed that they would achieve, at least 15 years ago. That would be a joke. But I just think, the main events seemingly will always be dominated by men. That doesn't mean women can't add more time. But if someone out there is bean counting, the men got 58 minutes this week of wrestling and the women only got 20. There's going to be people out there who actually look at those metrics. But I would say that if you don't want every women's match to be centered around a championship, this is probably not the best thing, because then there'll never be a matchup in which there's not a championship on the line or being discussed. And why is that important? Well, some of the best rivalries are not due to championships being involved, but, due to great storytelling, grudges, right? Blood feuds that, the title actually would be a distraction. How many times have you heard us say it on this show and others? Sometimes the title can be a distraction, an unnecessary distraction. It doesn't always have to be about championships. It can be about just wanting to beat somebody up. So right now, I would not introduce those two belts. If they want to get the women's divisions to a place where two championships being added to the company makes sense, then sure. But I can see, again, I know there's a lot of women out there be like, oh, well, come on, the men have it. You have to understand what you're doing then. You have to accept those consequences. You have to accept that collateral damage. It's not all sunshine and rainbows by just adding more championships. So again, I'm not against it in principle. I'm against it in timing, right? And it's not the right time. I think that's the clearest way that I can really articulate my position on this issue that has been hotly debated on some social media platforms about the women's division and adding these 2 titles. So, all right. Well, that'll do it for me on the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. And I'm about to go to bed now because I need to. But join us on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/WWE podcast or go to wwepodcast.com. Apple Podcasts also offers a 7-day free trial before you go ad-free. And if you want 2 months totally free on Apple, use our yearly option and get yourself an ad-free experience for an entire year, which gives you 2 months. That's 60 days free. So you're really only paying for 10 months. Or, well, you're getting 12 months, but you're paying for 10 months is essentially what you're doing. So, all right. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.